Dave Taylor here, welcome to Music Chasers, and today we rank Led Zeppelin's studio albums. Throughout the band's history, Led Zeppelin released 9 studio albums, and we're going to go through the list, ranking the albums from 9 to 1. Here we go. Number 9 is Coda. Coda is usually the album that ends up number 9 on most lists when you're listing Led Zeppelin albums. It's not a bad album. It's an album of outtakes, some of them from In Through the Outdoor, and there's some enjoyable ones like Ozone, Baby, Darlene, and Wearing and Tearing. But there's a few other tracks on there that are some of the weaker ones, and you can see why they just never made it on the Zeppelin album. We're Gonna Groove, also Walter's Walk as well. Poor Tom's not a bad song. Could have ended up on Led Zeppelin 3, but looking back, it just wouldn't have fit at the time. So that's going to be number 9 on the list, Coda. Number 8 on the list, Presence. You're thinking, well, Presence, that's usually like number 7 on most lists. Well, I'm going to explain why it's number 8. Now, one, this is a great album in ways that if you're a guitar player, this is a great guitar album. It's a great drumming album. It's just not a great song album. However, Achilles' Last Stand, I will admit, is one of the Zeppelin's greatest songs, and it's on my list of like top Zeppelin songs of all time. It just, the rest of the album doesn't hold up. For Your Life, not a strong track. Royal Orleans, not a strong track. Candy Store Rock, it's okay, not a strong track. You got the standouts of Nobody's Fault But Mine and Hot Sound From Nowhere, but T for One, not one of Zeppelin's finer efforts, unfortunately. That could have been the song that could have benefited from being a little bit shorter. Number 7 on the list, In Through the Outdoor, came out in 1979. And here's why I ranked this album ahead of Presence. One, it's a happier album. It seems like the band is having a little bit of fun, even though it's a tough album to record, just like the Presence album, where Presence was recorded. Robert Plant had the broken leg, recorded the album in the wheelchair. Here they're recovering after his son's passing, and it's a tough album, but there is some fun in this album. In the Evening, great song to start off the album. Southbound Soiree is a song that it just sounds like they're having fun. It was one of the few songs that Jimmy Page didn't write on. Same thing with All My Love, which is a very touching tribute to Robert's son. Fool in the Rain features great drumming from John Bonham, also a very good solo from Jimmy Page in that song. And you got a little bit of fun with Hot Dog, so you can see they're having some fun in there. And that's like a better song than the Candy Store Rock. Carol Solambra, it's a song that, I tell you what, I wish the mix in this song was a little bit better with Robert's vocals, but musically, there's a lot going on in that song. There is a lot. And then I'm Gonna Crawl kind of wrapped up the album in a way that we didn't know at the time was going to wrap up Led Zeppelin as a band. But it's a funner album, and it kind of flows a lot differently than it does with Presence. That's why it's number 7. Number 6 on the list, and this is where we get to the classics, by the way, is Led Zeppelin 3. I always feel that this is like an underrated album, but there's some moments where I'm like, man, this is good stuff. And there's like, well, I'm going to put this at number 6 of the classics. Of course, you got the Immigrant Song. You got Friends, which is a song that is unlike any other Led Zeppelin song that the band ever recorded. It is amazing. It is incredible. It's like, how did they do that? And it's did it like one time like that. It's an amazing track. Celebration Day, Since I've Been Loving You is probably their best original blues song. And then Out on the Tiles is kind of a forgotten rocker that wraps up side 1. Of course, side 2, that's like surprise everybody. It's like, well, there's not really a lot of electric guitars in here. I mean, Gallows Pole is cool, and Tangerine is a great song, and that's the way. Broad Near Stomp, fun stuff. It does get a little weird with Hats Off to Roy Harper. The one thing with that song that sounds different now than like before. If you listen with headphones on, you got all the crazy separation going on. But if you just like listen to it like on your phone without the separation, the song sounds completely different because you don't have like Robert on one side and the guitar playing on the other. But there you go. That's a song. Yeah, so it's not like a strong song that wraps up 3. I mean, there's a couple of weak songs on there, but not a bad album overall. Pretty enjoyable and just some amazing playing by the band. Number 5 on the list, and this is tough. Like, it's tough to rank the top 6 albums from Zeppelin. I mean, I'm doing 9 obviously because they had 9 studio albums, but the top 6 are tough. You can almost put them anywhere. Led Zeppelin's first album, number 5 on the list, and man, it just starts off so good. Good times, bad times, and then you get like the side 2 that's like, holy cow, your time is gonna come. Black Mountain's side, Communication Breakdown, I Can't Quit You. How many more times? It's like I gotta be picked up off the floor because it's so amazing. It is a good album. There's a couple of weak tracks on there. You Shook Me, it's not one of my favorites, which is probably why the album is number 5 on the list. But how many more times? It's a classic. Dazed and Confused, of course. There's a lot of good songs on this album, and like, this was just the beginning. Like, this is the first Zeppelin album you bought, and you're like, oh, it's gonna get better. Number 4 on the list, and man, this is really tough putting this at number 4. Don't get mad. Houses of the Holy. Okay, this is why it's number 4 on the list, is because it's not the other albums. Man, it's a good album. The song remains the same. The Rain Song and Over the Hills and Far Away. 2 of Zeppelin's greatest songs. It's not often that the band did the ballad, man, when they did the Rain Song. Holy cow. Now, either you get the grunge or you don't, and Jamaica is fine as well. Dancing Days is great. I will say this, the album that closes with the ocean, it's one of the happiest rock albums you ever get your hands on. Definitely the happiest Zeppelin album. Even like No Quarter, which is like kind of a darker song, doesn't bring down the album. But overall, it is like, if you don't own this album, what are you doing? Own it, buy it, rent it, stream it. We can't really rent it. Just get your hands on it. There's a lot of great stuff on that particular album. The tracks I mentioned, and man, Dancing Days, come on, like that, when it's like summertime, just go play that song and everything's gonna be all right. Number 3 on the list is Led Zeppelin's second album, Led Zeppelin 2. Man, oh man, this is when the band, it's just all worked out. It was heavy, they were on the road, they were writing, putting songs together. Of course, you got like Whole Lot of Love and What Is and What Should Never Be, but like the gem on this album is Ramble On, which was like, it just seemed for years was like kind of like the forgotten track in the album. And it's like people are like discovering now, it's like, this is an amazing song. There's so much there with the elements of that song that have been put together. Of course, you get Heartbreaker, Living Loving Maid, the Lemon Song, you got a little drum solo with Moby Dick and John Bonham. You have Thank You, which by the way, features Jimmy Page's only acoustic guitar solo on some Zeppelin music. Is that amazing? And it's the first song, by the way, that Robert Plant handled the lyrics on his own. And it's a great love song. And hasn't aged quite as well as some of the other stuff on that album, but man, it's a good song. And they Bring It On Home wraps it up, which, by the way, that is a great album for headphones. There's so much going out, like in Bring It On Home or What Is and What Should Never Be and the Lemon Song. Great stuff. And it's hard to put that album at number 3, but there's some other good albums coming up. Number 2 on the list, this has a little backstory. I actually saved money so I can buy this album on cassette. And it was a little bit more pricier than other Zeppelin albums because it was a double album, even though it was like one cassette, but there's a lot of music on that cassette. And man, oh man, what a great album. Physical Graffiti, number 2 on the list. And some people harp on it because like say, well, side 4's got, filler stuff on it. But this is where filler tracks and great tracks all work together. And it just works sonically on the album. I mean, Custard Pie is a completely different track than Zeppelin's ever recorded, and a great way to kick off the album. And then you get to The Rover, which is like a forgotten Zeppelin classic. Man, oh man, just the guitar playing in that, the riffs and everything else, outstanding. In My Time of Dying and House of the Holy and Trampled Underfoot. And you're like, oh man, now what's next? And then you got Kashmir. Kashmir, one of the greatest Zeppelin songs of all time. And then you get to the third side, if you will, and you got In the Light, and which is a classic, and Brauniard, and then you get Down by the Seaside, which is one of the more softer Zeppelin songs. But man, there's some good stuff there. 10 Years Gone, Night Flight, the Wanton Song. I could just go on and on because there's so many tracks on this album. Of course, you got Boogie with Stu and Black Country Woman, and then Sick Again, which could use a better mix. But there's so much in that particular album, so many different styles. And so many epics as well, with In My Time of Dying being Zeppelin's longest song and Kashmir's long, and In the Light with the layers of guitars, and then the layers of guitars in 10 Years Gone. Man, oh man, it is a great album. Go check it out. So what album do we have left? The number 1 album on that list. Number 1 album on that list, Led Zeppelin's 4th album. You can call it Led Zeppelin 4, you can call it Runes, you can call it Zoso. It is an amazing album, and there's a reason why it's one of the best-selling albums of all time. We're not even going to talk about the big song on that album yet. We'll go through the other stuff, which, by the way, if you look at how the album is laid out, the tracks are very similar. So I'm going to go with like side 1 and side 2, piece by piece here. So you got Black Dog on side 1, and then side 2 you're kicking things off with Misty Mountain Hop. And then you go to Rock and Roll, and then you go to 4 Sticks. So I mean, those are heavy hitters right there. And then you got the acoustic Battle of Evermore on side 1. And then you go to side 2 and the 7th song, or the 3rd song on that side, Going to California. So you see how it's all kind of laid out, you know, rock, acoustic, and then epic. And you got Stairway to Heaven wrapping up side 1, which is an all-time classic, the greatest song of all time. And then you're wrapping up the album with a song that you're like, well, you bought your Stairway. You know, there's no coming back at this point. When the Levee Breaks, which is just an amazing song. The drumming of John Bonham being sampled so many times in music from that particular song. It is just incredible. The sound of the drums, the sound of that album, it is pretty good. There's no real clunker to that album. I mean, 4 Sticks may not be a popular radio song, but it's just one that, man, that whole album is just something you can put on from start to finish. In fact, I used to when I was in high school and I was late every day for school. I was in trouble a lot, so I had to stop listening to the album in the morning because I was tardy all the time. But man, I love that album. There's a reason why Led Zeppelin 4 is one of the greatest albums of all time. It's not just because of the Stairway, but it's because everything was just clicking on that album with Black Dog and Rock and Roll and you know, Going to California, a great acoustic song. When the Levee Breaks, like, oh my gosh. An amazing album. I didn't even mention like Misty Mountain Hop or Battle of Evermore, 4 Sticks. Great stuff. There's a reason why it's one of the greatest rock albums of all time. And that's why it's number 1 on this list. What do you think? Did I rank them the right way? I mean, that's my preference of the Zeppelin albums. They're all classics to me. And man, oh man, I could just listen to them every day. Actually, I kind of do. But let me know what you think. Comment below. How would you rank the Zeppelin albums? Do you disagree with what I said about some of the albums? Let me know in the comments below. And please click subscribe and check out some of my other videos as well. Thanks for watching Music Chasers. I'm Dave Taylor.